Claire froze. Her fingers tightened around the steering wheel. The rearview mirror reflected an empty back seat, the worn leather upholstery, a folded blanket, her travel bag. Nothing else. She let out a slow breath. My nerves. The words left her lips without sound. She couldn't hear her own voice. The silence inside the car remained absolute. No such silence existed in nature. No cicadas, no wind, no engine. It was as though the entire world had been sealed beneath a thick glass dome. Then, tap. Something lightly knocked against the driver's side window. Claire whipped her head toward it. No one. Only the twisted branches of ancient cypress trees. She was about to drive on when the second knock came. This time from the passenger side. Tap, tap, as though a long fingernail were gently brushing the glass. A chill ran down her spine. She slammed her foot onto the accelerator. The car lurched forward, and in the same instant, every sound returned. The engine roared. The tires hummed against the road. Somewhere in the distance, a crow cawed. Only then did Claire realize she had been holding her breath. A few minutes later, the trees began to thin. The road climbed to the crest of a hill, and there, rising above an endless sea of live oaks and magnolias, stood the manor. It was far larger than it had appeared in the photograph. 3 stories, towering white columns darkened by time, a broad flight of stone steps, wrought iron balconies, a roof of dark slate. The house looked as though its last restoration had been completed only yesterday. There were no broken windows, no peeling paint, no signs of neglect. Yet something about it was unmistakably wrong. Claire couldn't immediately tell what it was. Then she realized not a single window in the enormous house stood open, despite the sweltering Louisiana afternoon. She pulled the car to a stop before the gates. The heavy wrought iron fence was wrapped in ivy. At its center, a bronze plaque bore a single inscription. Quod meminit, vivit. Claire knew enough Latin to translate it. What remembers lives. She had barely finished reading when the gates began to open on their own, without the slightest creak, slowly, deliberately, as though someone unseen were welcoming a long-awaited guest. The driveway was covered with white magnolia petals, yet none of the surrounding trees were in bloom. Not a single flower, not a single blossom, only petals. Hundreds, thousands. They drifted lazily through the still air without ever touching the ground. Claire stepped out of the car. One petal settled gently onto her palm. It was cold, almost transparent. A heartbeat later, it crumbled into fine silver dust. The front door stood slightly open, not wide, just enough, as though someone had entered only moments before. Hello? Her voice echoed through the vast entrance hall. No one answered. She crossed the threshold cautiously, then stopped. The house smelled nothing like an abandoned mansion should. Not dampness, not mildew, not dust. Instead, the air carried the scent of old books, beeswax candles, cedar wood, and the faintest trace of jasmine. It smelled like a house that was still lived in. The entrance hall was breathtaking. Black and white marble floors, a sweeping staircase dividing gracefully into 2 flights, dark wood paneling, an enormous crystal chandelier. Everything was immaculate, except there was no one there. A grandfather clock stood beside the staircase. Its pendulum swung steadily. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The hands pointed to exactly 3:17. Without thinking, Claire glanced at her wristwatch. 3:17. At that very moment, the pendulum stopped. The clock fell silent. An instant later, so did her watch. The second hand froze. Forever. "Welcome home, Miss Sullivan." The man's voice came from only a few feet away. Claire spun around. A man stood at the foot of the staircase. Tall, lean, perhaps 45. His charcoal gray suit fit him flawlessly. Only a trace of silver touched his temples. His face wasn't handsome in any conventional sense, yet there was something profoundly calm about him. The kind of calm found only in those who had endured too much, or knew far too much. "I'm sorry," Claire said, catching her breath. "You startled me." The faintest smile touched his lips. "It happens to almost everyone." "You are Gabriel Ashcroft?" Claire raised an eyebrow. "Ashcroft?" "Yes." He spoke his family name without pride, more like a burden that could never be set down. "So, this house belongs to you?" "Not anymore." His eyes remained fixed on hers. "It belongs to you now." But the letter said the last owner was Margaret Ashcroft. For the first time, something like sorrow crossed his face. It did. "Was she your mother?" A long silence followed. "Once." The answer sounded strange, as though it meant something other than what the words suggested. Claire decided not to press him. Not yet. "I've prepared a room for you," Gabriel said quietly. "You've had a long journey. You knew I was coming today?" "Of course." "Who sent the letter?" He looked at her so intently that she felt suddenly uneasy. "Not I." "Then who did?" "The house." Claire let out a tired laugh. "Listen, Mr. Ashcroft, please, Gabriel." "Fine, Gabriel. I understand people around here enjoy their legends, but houses don't write letters." He didn't argue. Instead, he said softly, "In a few days, you won't ask that question anymore." He led her down a long corridor. Dozens of antique portraits lined the walls. Each face had been painted with astonishing realism, and almost none of them seemed to be looking at the artist. Instead, they appeared to be watching everyone who passed. Claire stopped before one of the paintings, a young woman in a dark green dress, about 30 years old. Dark hair, pale eyes. Something about her face felt strangely familiar. "Who is she?" Gabriel looked at the portrait. For the first time since they'd met, his composure faltered. "Her name was Evelyn Morris. Was she related to you?" "No." "Then why?" He interrupted her gently. "Because she was the last person who tried to leave this house." Claire studied the painting more closely. Only then did she notice something peculiar. Tiny drops of water clung to Evelyn's dress. No, they weren't painted. They were slowly running down the canvas, as though the portrait itself were weeping. At that moment, a sound came from the floor above, soft, barely audible. Someone was walking across the old wooden floor. One slow step, then another, then a third. Claire looked up. "We're not alone here?" Gabriel was silent for a long time. When he finally answered, he spoke with the same calm tone one might use to comment on the weather. "No. There are far more of us here than it seems, and almost none of them remember that they're dead."